Welcome to the Worrier podcast, recorded live at the Red Corner Gym with Danny G and Tony Summers.
Right, here we are again then, Friday morning, back in the Red Corner Gym for this week's podcast.
Morning, Dan.
Morning, Tone.
I say morning, but we've already done our session, ain't we? Our training session.
Yeah. Oh, look, there we go. Look, schoolboy error. Should have turned that phone off before we started. But there we go. I'll get rid of that now. Hi everyone. Thanks for listening again. Hope you've enjoyed the first couple of podcasts we've done. We've got another one coming up today for you. So I'm looking into my phone here, making sure it's on silent. So if I feel a bit wavy, that's what it is. How are you, Tone?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, good, mate. Just busy.
Yeah.
Really
Lots
busy.
going on.
Loads going on. Yeah, which is interesting. Just mega busy. NHS work.
Yeah.
Probation service. I've just started to work in. Working with all types of people in there, which is interesting.
Yeah. Is that your first time at the probation office?
Yeah. I mean, it's Friday now, isn't it? And I started working there on Monday.
No, I mean you've not been there yourself as a client at some point.
No. But yeah, it was interesting.
Was it? Yeah.
Interesting work. Yeah. But good though. You know, I've always believed when I was doing my martial arts stuff. You know, people say what system do you do, but.
Yeah.
I've done all sorts. I like to look at as many systems as I can and take the best from each one.
Yeah.
And I've looked at my therapy work like that as well. You know, study as many different types of therapy as I can, work in as many different types of area as I can, and get as much experience as possible.
Yeah.
From working with lots of different people.
Because you were saying before you started it, you were a bit unsure about it, but so I think uncertainty whenever we go into new areas, it's a common theme for people, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think part of the uncertainty was not a little bit to do with the work, because it's a new area, and you're right. When we go into new areas, you know, when you're doing a lot of work with student nurses at the moment, and they have to give presentations, and they're going on placements, and they're all really scared. I'm trying to explain to them that that's normal, and it's because they're going into something different.
Yeah.
They're going into something new that they haven't done before, so that's uncertainty. Whenever you go into anything new, there's uncertainty, and as human beings, we don't like uncertainty. We tend not to like change.
Yeah.
I've had people say to me that they do like change, and then I say to them, well, okay, if that change is imposed on you, do you like it? And they go, oh no, don't like that. So, you know, like I say, as human beings, I think we actually crave certainty. Yeah. That's why people stay in crap jobs, crap relationships. So doing something new, it can be really hard. I mean, it's how you grow, and you've got to do it. If you want to grow, you've got to do it. And part of the probation work, if I'm honest as well, was more practical. Right. Because of where it was. It's I've got to travel. And I found myself sort of like moaning about having to travel.
Yeah.
But then I thought about earlier this year I was in California with my friend Reverend Bill, and Bill would think, because of the size of California, he would think nothing of driving 4 hours to get somewhere. And I'm like, where are we going today, Bill? Oh, we're going so-and-so. How far is that? 4 hours? But he was saying when he was over here, he couldn't believe he was staying with some really nice people in Wales. Yeah. And he was on about going to Scotland one day, and they were saying, oh, Scotland's hours away, it'll take us hours, you know. And he to him, it was nothing.
Mm. It comes back to perspective, doesn't it?
Perspective, yeah. So to me, I was whinging because I had to drive an hour and a half to get to this place. And then that flashed back into my mind, so... Yeah. But yeah, it's all perspective, isn't it? Which we've talked about before, haven't we?
Change in perspective and certainty. Thinking back to the first podcast, the only thing that's certain is uncertainty.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing we're sure of. These are all recurring themes for us, aren't they? You know, I'm mindful of, you know, people that are listening that you're going to hear. There's nothing new that you're going to hear from us. It's all the same stuff, the same secrets that have been around for tens of thousands of years are the things that we kind of pick up on, tune into, and try and learn from and practice in our lives. You know, like the leaning into uncertainty, leaning into fear, you know, trying to live the right way to get the benefits of a good life. You know, there's no secrets here. There's nothing new going to be revealed in these podcasts. If you come here looking for the nugget of wisdom, the reality is the wisdom's all already there. Most people just regurgitate it, right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the books and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a nice little different spin on it, or a modern take on it, which can make it easier to digest.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we need to hear the same message, don't we? You know, this might be the 10th time that somebody's heard the message, but it's the 10th time that it clicks.
Yeah, and it may be that you just need to hear it today. Sometimes I've heard stuff that I've known, but it just hits at the right time, and it fits for the right situation, and it just gives it, you know, whatever that lesson is or whatever metaphor, it gives it so much more power.
Yeah, and it's taken, for me, the big thing that's missing for a lot of this, well, you know, a lot of the self-help stuff is taking action, isn't it? You can get all the knowledge in the world, which is really important. People say knowledge is power, and I think in some respects it is, but if you're not doing anything with that knowledge, then you're almost, I wouldn't say wasting your time, because you've still got the knowledge, but you're not doing anything with it. You know, you've got to, it's inspiration, action, change is the process for me, and the middle bit is what most people miss. You know, they get inspired, but they don't take any action. They don't do anything differently, and that comes down to what we were talking about earlier, Dan. You know, a lot of it is taking responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, self-responsibility, like you were saying, which was a really good point. How, you know, a lot of people, when they come into therapy, they look to the therapist to give them all the answers, and it's almost like they're handing all the responsibility over to somebody else, which we understand, but at some point, it's the action bit. You've got to take the responsibility yourself. You know, as a therapist or whatever it is, a life coach, a therapist, and we were talking about hypnotherapy earlier, which I've done a bit of. But at some point, the person's got to take the responsibility themselves to do something. You know, I can't go. I've had people that are addicted to cocaine and different addictions, and you know, a couple of people have said to me, "Can't you come and stay with me?" No, not really. You know, I've got my own life to sort of live. I can't come and stay at your house on a Saturday and a Sunday night to make sure that you don't, you know, take whatever you're taking. They've got to take responsibility for that. And unless you do that, you're not going to change.
See, yeah, because the reason this conversation come up, we were talking about, I've been listening to Darren Brown, and he was talking about hypnosis, like you say, and he was saying that one of the that in his years of experience doing kind of suggestion with people and hypnotherapy and stuff, that for many years he thought that what you're doing when you're trying to help someone break free from an addiction, or maybe like a fear of flying or stuff like that, this was my take from what he said, was that he thought that you're empowering them to be able to do that. You know, you're empowering them using hypnosis or whatever to be able to do it. But he realised recently that what he's actually doing is he's taking responsibility for whatever issue. So he's telling them, I can fix your issue. So in essence, he's taking responsibility of it. And I was thinking about how I've seen that with people where if they believe that you, for instance, are helping them, or certainly when I had a lot of involvement with addictions and recovery, often, you know, people that were new to recovery would gravitate to people that had more recovery, and they'd be convinced that if they just stuck to you, they'd stay clean. And there was a truth to that. But obviously, eventually, they learn that they can stay clean on their own 2 feet. But so I think it's interesting, this idea of responsibility. We're constantly told to take responsibility, take responsibility, take responsibility. You know, Jordan Peterson, a lot of his stuff is about taking responsibility. But I just thought it was an interesting take on it, that actually there could be some power in handing responsibility over, if that allows you to believe that you're now able to deal with a certain situation or to deal with an addiction or whatever, because somebody else is quote unquote taking care of it for you. If that gives you the power to think, because a lot of us feel powerless on our own, powerless. You know, we've been battling with this addiction, or we've been battling with this fear or whatever it is for so many years that we come to a point where we feel totally powerless. So I think if someone comes along and shines a light on it and says, you know, I know the way out, I can help you with that, if that gives you the belief, whether it's placebo effect or not, it can be really powerful. You know. I just thought it was a really interesting take on it, this idea that actually giving the responsibility away could also be as empowering as taking responsibility. We know that in real terms the person is actually taking responsibility, because they're the one, well, for a start they've done the action, they've gone and got some help, haven't they, and then there's a change come from that. But my point is, if they want to believe that that's being facilitated by you or by a therapist or by a self-help book or whatever it is, then more power to you. Whatever it does to get the results, really.
Yeah, I think the word you used a lot through that, Dan. I think self-responsibility. I'm a massive believer in self-responsibility, self-forgiveness, self-love, self-worth, self-esteem. It's all self, which sounds selfish, and I was brought up not to be selfish, but we spoke about this before. It's a proper selfish. You got definitely you got to get yourself right first, and then you can help. You can help other people, whatever that is for you. But the word you used a lot through all that was belief. And I'm just listening to you and I'm thinking it all makes perfect sense. It comes back to beliefs. If you believe that I can help you, then I'm going to be able to help you. If you believe, and this is how hypnotherapy works. And if you don't believe it, it won't work. And I know that for a fact because I did it myself when I did my hypnotherapy work. The first time I went, I just thought, there's no way that anyone's going to hypnotise me. And nobody could. But the second time I went, I thought, well, if I'm going to hypnotise people, I want to know how it feels. So I actually went along with it and let them hypnotise me. So, but again, if you think about it, that's my mind, that's my belief system. I've gone from believing you're not going to hypnotise me, and they couldn't, to actually, okay,
I'm going to be open-minded to it.
And my belief is, you'll be able to hypnotise me today, and they could.
And that's really powerful because, like that, we were talking in the last episode about being the gatekeeper of the mind, being the gatekeeper of what we allow in, and that what you've just said there is really powerful. The minute you decide, okay, I want to be hypnotised, I want to experience it, you're essentially opening the gate. You're opening the gates of your mind. But I'm just thinking about how that can manifest itself in our lives, where that idea that 100 people can like us but one person doesn't say good morning to us, and we'll focus on that one person. We've got to be careful of whose opinions we're letting in, and what we're letting in, because
but I think that again, that's your belief system, isn't it? Just listening to a guy who I absolutely love, Bruce Lipton, and he's a biocellular guy, a scientist, who through his work with cells eventually came to believe in spirituality, which I really like, because the guy started off as a non-believer scientist, and by the end of all his work, but he's a spiritual guy, but he talks about how our environment has a massive effect. He said how your environment has a massive effect on every single cell in your body. And if you think about it, we're all made of cells, you are just a big lump of cells. Everything is, and every cell in your body has got intelligence. So his argument is we're products of our environment. So like you say, if you're surrounded by negative people, or you have been, and again, he's one of these ones that says, and I say this to everybody, those first few years of life, that 0 to 7 roughly, are vital. Because you're like a sponge, and what your environment is at that age will have a massive effect on your life now. And if people say, I don't know what my environment was like to a 0 to 7, just look at how you're living your life now, and that will give you a massive clue of what your environment was like when you were 0 to 7, what you were being told, and what your belief systems were. And it's back to those beliefs from an early age. I'm 56, and I know that I'm still living my life based on beliefs that I learned as a small child, and most of them are subconscious, which is the hard bit of making it conscious, so you become aware of your beliefs. And then it's back to them. We have to take, I've got this say it's a negative belief. I've got this negative belief, I know it's there, and I know it's deep, and I know it's deep-seated. Then I think the responsibility bit kicks in, doesn't it? Because I've got to take some responsibility and start working on that. But everything comes back to beliefs for me. Everything. There's just no way around it. And you see people, you only have to, people will kill each other for their beliefs, and people find evidence for their beliefs. Sometimes you listen to people and you think, what are you going on about? And then they'll say, but what about this and what about that? And it's like, wow, where did you get that from? And people will find evidence to support their beliefs from somewhere, because it's almost like, but I've got to be right. This belief's right.
Well,
they're so powerful.
If you've got a really strong belief system, and the belief system is challenged, if you don't defend it, then at your peril, because your whole worldview is based on your belief system. The way everything you do is based on your belief system. The way you treat people, the way you treat your children, the way you interact with the world, the way you perceive the world, it's all based on your belief system. So this is why people get so strongly defensive of their beliefs and try to find evidence for it, because to challenge your belief system is to rock your whole world, really. It can be.
Which is
a scary thing.
Well, that's a great point, Dan, because it goes back to what you were saying earlier about change. If you challenge my belief system and then I'm left thinking, well, I don't know what to believe anymore, then that means that's change, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've just changed my whole belief system.
Yeah.
And that's again back to that's scary.
It is scary.
Because who am I? What do I believe? You are your beliefs, really.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. They affect everything.
Yeah.
They affect everything. And I guess that word, that we use the word perceive and perception a lot, but really your beliefs affect the way you perceive things. They're not necessarily the same thing, but they're interlinked without a doubt.
Yeah. We were talking, weren't we, about the filters?
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. So if you think about it, how we've got two main sets of filters. Mm-hmm. So your first set of filters are your senses. Your eyes, ears, taste, touch, smell. Yeah. But if you think about it, our senses, as brilliant as they are, and I think as human beings, sometimes I look at human beings and just think, wow, we're such complex creatures, but those senses are not perfect. We can't see things that certain animals can. We can't hear things that certain animals can. So through our senses, we filter out a lot of information. Yeah. We could look at the same thing, Danny, and we'll see it in different ways. Yeah. So that's the first filter that information goes through, and then the second filter is your belief system and your values. So you'll tell me something, it'll go in, and I'll pass it through all my belief system and my values. I'll dismiss what I don't believe about it, and then I'll project it back out. Yeah. And like I said, we could see the same situation, and you'll say, well, this is what I saw and this is what happened, Tony, and I'm going, hang on a minute, Dan, that's not what happened. No. But we've both seen the same situation. Yeah.
Well, they say now that eyewitness testimony is the least reliable, like now with all the CCTV and DNA and stuff like that. They said that eyewitness testimony, it's just proven, the new technology and everything has just proven how bad eyewitness testimony is, because like I said to you this morning, you can have an argument or something kick off, and you can guarantee that the bloke's wife will say he did nothing, they just attacked him. But then you'll look at the CCTV and he's posturing and shouting and maybe pushing or whatever, but because we love people, we filter that stuff out. We just see the brutal attack on someone that we love, so that's that's not your senses filtering it. Your eyes have seen it, but your brain will not allow you to believe it because it doesn't fit with your belief system about that person.
That's right. Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It basically means that we know nothing. If you really think about it, we know nothing. We have no clue.
Yeah, well, I think we know a lot, don't we? It's back to knowledge, isn't it? But it's being aware of your belief system, and almost being aware, something I work on, because I do a lot of conflict stuff, is actually accepting that somebody's got a different belief system to me, and at least trying to see and get my head around what their belief system is. Why are they saying this? How are they seeing it? And it's really interesting if you can do that. Oh yeah. It stops a lot of conflict. Yeah. Yeah. Because I get where that guy's coming from. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I can see where he's coming from, and I can see why he's saying what he's saying. Yeah. Like you said, it's the same. Trying to think. I had an incident with a guy at a train station a few weeks ago, and the guy got really angry with me because he thought I'd pushed in the queue, and I hadn't pushed in the queue. But when I played the incident back in my head, I understood why he thought I had pushed in the queue. He perceived it that way, yeah. He hadn't seen the whole picture. Yeah. But from the part of the picture that he had seen, I get why he was saying that. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I understand that now. I understand why, you got annoyed with me, because this is what you saw. But actually, this is what happened. Yeah. Or it's the way I see it. Someone else might have seen it completely different. So it's seeing that, I guess sometimes in life as well, it's about taking a step back and seeing the bigger picture, isn't it? Yeah. And actually questioning your own beliefs and going, I might be wrong here, It's just my belief system. But I think if you can change that, I mean, we mentioned it earlier, didn't we? The placebo effect, and there's so much research being done on that at the moment.
Yeah.
And they're looking at now, because obviously they can go into the brain and, you know, see what different chemicals are being released. And they, you know, again, when they give somebody a placebo, they're realising, you know, that has a massive chemical effect in the brain.
Yeah.
Even though the placebo is just a sugar tablet. But you believe, you know, and they're saying that even when they tell people afterwards that have, you know, maybe had a miraculous recovery because they've took this placebo, and they tell them it's a placebo, people are still saying, can I carry on taking the placebo because it works?
Yeah.
And the doctors are going, yeah, but it's a sugar pill. I don't care, I want to keep taking it. Which I find fascinating as well. You know, people have had miraculous recoveries on this stuff. You know, the placebo effect. But again, it's beliefs.
Yeah, it's beliefs. That bring, like, with when you see the faith healers, you know, like where they'll get people up on stage, and you know that you'll see these miraculous kind of, well, what appears from the outside to be curing or you know, curing an ailment. But you know, the research into that, they say a lot of it is adrenaline. You know, you're up in front of a big crowd of people, you go up there with a massive desire for that ailment, whatever it is, to be cured, and there's someone there telling you, I can, you know, I've got this divine power, and with my touch I can heal you. And people, and it's not always just a 10-minute thing, you know, people are, you know, they're doing studies on it, and people say they've been cured of this, and it's not just come back after the show, you know, it's not come back and it's lasted, and it hasn't come back, you know, whatever injuries or backaches or whatever. But that's exactly what we're talking about. It's in a way similar to hypnotherapy, because it's just someone there telling you, I can do this, we can do this together, you know, we can fix this, and not having that belief will, look, it opens the doorway to the opportunity that's a possibility. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. And I guess, like, you know, if we go back to the cell stuff, that's why he talks about your environment. A cell will adapt to any environment. A cell can become a liver cell, it can become a heart cell, it can become a brain cell. It'll adapt.
Most of mine seems to become fat cells.
But again,
I'm trying to get the muscle cells on the go, but they don't seem to want to play ball.
There's muscle there, Dan. Just trained with you. But I guess even that, though, is environment, isn't it? You know, I've been thinking that as well. You know, sometimes when my diet goes a bit crap, it's environment. You know, the environment I'm in, and I always say, you know, if crap food's in the house, it's tempting. You know, one of the ways I deal with that is not to have it in the house. But when you've got a wife who likes buying crap food, it makes it a bit harder. But I guess then it's back to responsibility, isn't it? I've still got the responsibility whether I eat it or not. But I think that what I'm saying is that environment has we like it, we love it in here, don't we? You know, the red corner, because it's quite, well, I can say quite, it's a very positive environment, nice people, you know, and you're around people that are telling you can do things and encouraging you, and that's important.
And you're around people who, it seems that when we're all here, because we all know that we have off days, I know you have your off days, you know I have mine, you know, but it seems like when we're here at the red corner, everybody's on their best game. Do you know what I mean? Everybody's trying their best, you know, and that inspires you to raise your game a little bit. But this environment's really good for what's the word, for self-improvement, you know, because you're around people that are trying to improve, and people that will support you in trying to improve. But environment, definitely, like, you know, I think we said it on the other podcast about, you know, you become like the 5 people you spend most of your time with, and so by actively making a conscious decision to choose some people that you think would be good for you is a great way to raise your game, you know. Bring them people into your life, bring them into the fold, and let them in on your bad days, let them in on what you want. I mean, with Glenn all the time, you know, we talk about what my plans are, what my hopes are, but also what my flaws are and where I'm falling short. And it's, you know, you can't beat a relationship like that. It's so beneficial. But what you were saying about being able to see other people's belief system is, I think that's really important if you're going to be helping each other, you've got to be able to put yourself in another person's shoes as well. Because it's very easy to tell people that they're doing it wrong because they're not doing it your way. You know, if you're not open-minded to other people's belief systems and how it works for them.
I completely agree with that. I think that's where a lot of the self-help, or people that maybe haven't been trained so much in the self-help stuff. Because they're just I see that a lot, and you know, something works for them, and they're just saying to people,
do this.
You got to do it this way,
Yeah.
do it that, and think, well, actually, that won't work for that person.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a different belief system. It works for you,
Yeah.
which is great, and there's nothing wrong with saying to people, look, this is what works for me.
Yeah.
And then they can try it. But I think, definitely.
Yeah.
There's something that I see a lot. You know, you got to do this and you got to do that, and well, no, why do you have to do that? That's the worst thing you could do.
The best thing, one of the most empowering things that I've had in my kind of journey of self-discovery has been learning to have my own, what I call performance-based feedback loop. So let's use diet and training as an analogy. It's an easy one. So we can look at somebody who's maybe got into great shape, and they'll say, this is what I ate. I'll write you down what I ate every day for a month, and they'll give you that diet plan. And you see people selling these diet plans, but I might not want to eat chicken and broccoli and whatever's on that diet plan. I'm my own human being. I want to eat what I want to eat, but I also understand that if I want to get in great shape, I maybe can't have I can't eat just what I want as much as I want. So one of the most empowering things is, okay, what can I do? How can I figure out if I'm losing weight? Okay, so you figure out what measurements you need to take to figure out if you're losing weight. Then you go off and you try your diet. You improve your diet from what it is. I try it, I improve it. And then a couple of weeks later, we get some more measurements, and it's either good or it's bad. Good news or bad news. And this is the importance thing with a performance-based feedback loop, is that if my results are not good, to try not to get negged out, to try not to feel negative and bummed out and everything, but to just think, okay, we've tried that hasn't worked, so now we know we need to change something. And that, for me, dealing with various aspects of my life in that way, figuring out my way of doing it, but looking at my own results and am I getting results and am I not, and if I am, brilliant, keep going. If not, we need to change something. I've found that a lot more empowering, because for a long time, coming back to responsibility, I would just go to anyone that was maybe successful at business or successful at getting in great shape or whatever, and say, tell me what to do, just tell me what to do. But the thing is, I'm not them. And I can't live I have to live as me. And my environment's different. The opportunities that I've had in my life are different from the opportunities they've had. The adversities that I've had are different from what they've had. The best person I can compare myself to is me. And so getting that performance-based feedback loop, is it working? Good, keep going. If not, change it. That's for me, it's been a real eye-opener, because like I say, it's easy to just want other people. So in a way, I'm kind of taking responsibility for myself there. But it's easy to go down the rabbit hole of wanting people to prescribe, like we were saying, do this way. But like you say, that comes from a place of, it's not a place of empathy, is it? It's not being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I guess the best personal trainers and stuff that I've seen, and obviously without a doubt, well, there is no therapy without that empathy. Therapists, if they haven't got that ability to put themselves in your shoes, there is no therapy there. That's not therapeutic. No. But the best personal trainers that I've seen have been very empathic, and they're able to put themselves in the client's shoes, and they understand that their clients maybe don't enjoy exercise as much as the PT does. They maybe don't enjoy healthy eating as much as the PT does. They maybe enjoy having a few beers a lot more than the PT does. Do you know what I mean? And they're the ones that can really see it, seem to be the ones that get the best results with their clients.
No, I agree. I think one of my favourite sayings is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I think, you're right, that if you're looking at from a therapist point of view or a coaching point of view, I think you've genuinely got to care about people.
Yeah.
I think
you can't fake it.
No, you can't fake it. I know people that try to, but it doesn't tend to work for very long. People normally see through it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think, at some point you have to take responsibility if you're going to make changes, which we've said. Beliefs, back to your belief system.
Yeah.
So when you were talking, and at first I started thinking, well, is that just a belief? But then,
which part?
Well, when you first started talking about, I can't remember what you were saying now, Dan. You said quite a bit there, but about when we were talking about being in having a positive environment.
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, that could be just a belief as well, couldn't it? But then if we look at the evidence overwhelmingly says that if you're in a positive environment, it's working on your belief system, isn't it? Because you're around people that are going to challenge your belief system.
Yeah. Well,
and then I was thinking about society as well as you were talking then, and maybe as a society we're sort of told, or we're taught sort of not to take responsibility, are we? You know, like, and sometimes there's arguments, ain't there, when the government come out and they say, right, we're going to change the sugar levels, or we're going to put warnings on cigarettes and alcohol, and people always say, well, it's down to people's individual.
Yeah.
But then if you look at society and you look at how we are, you know, like obesity and people dying from smoking and alcohol related, it's almost like, I don't know, that conditioning, isn't it? But if people took responsibility, it ties in with what we're saying. It's almost like we give responsibility over to other people and trust these marketing people, and we trust all these doctors. And, you know, if you listen, go back to Bruce Lipton, and I've had this discussion with doctors and they get really annoyed with me, you know. I remember talking to a doctor and just saying about, I think too many people are on medication, and I definitely believe that for depression. The figures are horrendous. I was looking at the other day, like 20 odd % of Americans now are on some type of tablet for depression or anxiety. That's a massive figure. Yeah. And it's similar figures in this country. But I also think, like this doctor was saying, we wouldn't be here without medicine. You know, all the diseases it's wiped out and stuff like that. And I just thought, wow, do you know what? He's got a point here. Yeah. And
but that's your ability to be able to put yourself in his shoes and see it from his point of view.
Yeah, and it came out for me, the word that came out of all that was balance.
Yeah.
But I also think because we trust these people almost, you know, you tell me what to do to get better. You tell me what I should be eating. You tell me how I should be living. And it's almost like we've become conditioned to do that instead of taking, well, actually, like you said, what works for me? You know, if I'm listening to these people, you know, I like to watch sport, and on a lot of sport, there's a lot of adverts for alcohol and stuff like that, you know, and I like a drink, you know, on a Saturday night I'll have a drink, but if I'm listening to these adverts all the time and being conditioned, which you are, to keep buying alcohol, I'll try that one, and before you know it, you're drinking every single night. You know, I'm not really taking any responsibility there, am I? It's one of the things they look at. I mean, you know this, Dan, from your work in NA, but in AA and stuff like that, it's about a big part of all that work, which I find fascinating, is about taking responsibility, isn't it? It starts off by, you know, we'll help you. That's why you go into those places. You know, you can't do this on your own, so, you know, we'll help you as a group. But at some point, you know, they're always supporting you, but they encourage you. At some point, you've got to make your own decisions, ain't you?
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
go to have that bottle of wine on a Saturday night, and you know it's going to take you back 20 steps. Yeah. You know, my friend Paul Regan was brilliant at this. He said people would ring him up and go, Paul, I'm about to have a bottle of wine. You know, that he'd been working with for maybe 6 months, a year.
I remember
and he'd go, well, put the phone down, and if you tip it down the sink, ring me back. If you have it, don't bother calling me, and he'd just put the phone down. Yeah. Which was quite harsh, but, you know, Paul believed that that's how you needed to be. And
well, I think he was a firm believer that, you know, at some point if you've got an issue with someone, you've got to take a responsibility for it. And the thing is, he's not there dismissing someone. What he's saying is, if you want to continue this journey, I'm here. If you don't want to continue this journey, you want to go off on your own path, then I'm not here. I'm not going to try and hold you back. You know,
it's not my responsibility. If you want to drink that bottle of wine,
it's actually empowering them.
Yeah, if you want to take that bottle of wine, take it. If you don't, tip it down the sink, and I'll be here and I'll help you.
Well, I think with what you were saying about kind of obesity, antidepressants, alcohol. I'm mindful with this stuff because I try not to get too. It's easy to go down a kind of conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but my underlying suspicion around obesity, depression, and the fact that a lot of people use drugs and alcohol. A lot of people. I mean, maybe it's. I do have this suspicion that it's probably because the world we live in, most of us don't feel that happy with. You know, it doesn't feel like a kind of a natural way to be a human being. You know, this kind of working 9 to 5, working 5-6 days a week, or or whatever. It doesn't feel that natural. So I think a lot of us, whether we know it or not, are looking for that bit of escape. And alcohol, takeaway food or eating out, whatever, they all can give you that escape. And I think that I do think we have to take responsibility. I'm not shirking that by any means, because the consequences of not taking responsibility just don't bear thinking about. But my suspicion is that so many of us are drawn to these things because deep down inside we don't feel we're living kind of as we should be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I'm not big on conspiracy theories either, because I think
No,
they can
it's
send,
easy
I think
to
they
get,
can
yeah.
send you sort of around the hat rack if you get too involved.
But you understand what I mean, that this feels like a strange way to be living.
Yeah, I do.
Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of beauty in the world, and I think that there's a lot of amazing things that we can see and do and be, but I think on the whole, in general, for the majority of the population, there's definitely a Monday morning trudge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think there is definitely escapism in there, isn't there? Through doing these things, and that's, again, if that's okay for you, do it. I never tell people what to do.
Yeah.
If you want to do it, do it. That's your choice, isn't it? That's about you taking responsibility, and your whatever your belief systems are. But I do, I had an example of this myself, Dan, taking my mum to hospital. It was a couple of years ago now. She had to have some checks, and she was okay at the time, but when they were asking her what tablets she was taking, I couldn't believe it. She must have been on about 5 or 6 different tablets a day.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what she was on them for, and when I asked her, she didn't know what half of them were for.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I wonder how many people are living like that, how many people go to and I get it as well, I'm not blaming anybody here in a way, people blame the big pharmaceuticals, and maybe they have got a lot to answer for, because there's a lot of money there, isn't there? And,
Yeah.
Cynical people will tell you that they want as many people on a tablet as possible because they make massive money.
Yeah.
But you go to the doctors, you talk to doctors, and a lot of people get really racked off if they go to the doctor and he doesn't give them a tablet.
Yeah.
I've made an appointment to see you because I'm ill, you've got to give me a tablet, So it goes both ways, but it's like, well, I'll give you a tablet for this, but then that's going to throw this out, that's going to affect you. I'll give you a tablet for your heart, but that's going to affect your liver. So I'll give you a tablet for your liver, and that'll have an effect on your kidney. So I'm going to give you a tablet to balance that out, and then all these tablets are going to cause a bit of an acid reaction in your stomach. So I'll give you like something for the acid, and before you know it, you're on loads of different tablets, and it's like, for me, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
But again, it's back to, a lot of it's got to be back to that responsibility bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of just thinking, like you said, you go to see a therapist because you want a quick fix. That happens to me all the time. People want me to, to like help them with problems that they've had since they were like the imprint stage, 0 to 7. And they want me in one session to undo everything and change their whole belief system. It's the same with the tablet, though, isn't it? You go in, take one tablet, and you go to a doctor, he'll give me a tablet and everything will be all right. But actually, no, you're still drinking too much at a weekend. You're still eating shit. You're still doing this and that.
This is for me where it gets like I said, try and stay away from the conspiracy theories. But you've just said from 0 to 7, the imprint stage, and what do we do with children between 0 to 7? We send them to school 5 days a week in them working hours times to get them used to that's going to be my theory, is that's what they're trying to get used to. And then we tell them what they're going to do all day. Yeah. Between this time and that time you're going to do this, between this time and that time you're going to do that, then you're going to play out, then you're going to eat lunch, then you're going to come back, we're going to do this, that, and this is what we're going to do. And it's almost as if we're in a way programmed to give over our responsibility. That's what we're doing there. We're not empowering children to make their own decisions. I understand children are children, but do you see what I'm saying? It's like that's part of that conditioning that we learn at 0 to 7, is to look to authority figures like doctors, like employers, to tell us what to do when. So that's why we go to the doctors, and we want them to give us that tablet or to give us the. We're not conditioned to take responsibility.
I agree.
Is my opinion.
I agree with that, but I think it's much bigger than that for me.
You think it's more ingrained, more of like
your kids are going to learn more off what you do, and what more from what you do and how you are, even than what you say.
Yeah,
and
of course.
And what you get them to do. So how you are as a person and what you're saying to your kids and how you're treating your kids. So I remember reading somewhere about, about how, I don't know even how to word this, but okay, so children from, let's just say, a more affluent background.
Uh-huh.
So let's just say, I don't really want to get into class, but let's just say upper class, whatever that means, yeah? That when those kids go to a doctor, even as little kids. They can hold a conversation with the doctor, and they can ask the doctor will say, right, we're going to do this, and those kids will go, why? And they'll have an adult conversation with the doctor, yeah, right. And they'll question everything,
right,
yeah, because that's what they've been brought up to believe, you know, that they're on the same level as these doctors. Okay, you're a doctor and I'm coming to you for help, but
I want to know what you're doing.
I'm on the same level as you. Whereas kids from working class backgrounds, when they go to a doctor, you know, and this is what I saw with my mum, you know, whatever they tell her, she will just do without question, without anything else. And I think for me, that's a worth thing, isn't it? It's back to that, you know, and that conditioning. You know, I'm from a working class background, you're better than me. It's definitely around for me, especially academically.
Yeah.
You know, I do a lot of work in hospitals now, and I found it really hard at first. And as a therapist, I get doctors coming to see me with their problems. But at first, I really struggled with that, because these were people that I was taught from an early age that you sort of put on a pedestal. They're the experts, they know everything, they're almost perfect people. And I'm working class, I don't know as much as you, which, you know, when it comes to worth as well, you know, it affects my worth. Because I'm not as clever as you and you're a doctor, that means you're better than me, and I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do.
Yeah.
And I find that quite sad. But I'd say that's really common. You know, that's really, really common. And it's back to that, you know, it's actually teaching our kids, for me, it's back to teaching them about worth and what they're worth. And yeah, we've got to you know, we've got to discipline our kids at times and teach them boundaries, but, you know, I think it's more, for me, that age is just massive. The things that we're passing on to our kids that we don't even know we're doing, and that gets passed from generation to generation, and it's just massive.
Yeah, it's as a parent, and I mean, I've got, obviously Lily is 7 now, and you're thinking about that stage, and it's like, if you think about it too much, it can become very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the reality is exactly like you said. You're saying we have to teach them, but really how we teach them is by, like you say, who we are as a person, and that is something that you know, it's a difficult one, because you think, well, there's parts of me that I don't want to pass on to my children. But you can't hide who you are from your children. They live with you, they love you, they're a part of you. So I think it's just about trying to do the best that you can.
Yeah, and I guess loving them.
Yeah, of course, love is massive. And when you think about your own parents, I mean, I know we spoke about, you know, my feelings about my mum when I first went to therapy, but one great thing that happened for me was realising that my parents did the best that they could do with the tools that they had, you know. And then when I start to think back about their upbringing, you know, my mum is one of, I think, 9, you know, growing up in Dublin, no dad around, poverty like you wouldn't believe, you know. So then when you start putting it into that perspective, you think, wow, she did a great job, you know, raising me. And then, you know, so you look at that and how it gets better, or hopefully, fingers crossed, it gets better with each generation. And I think that's the most that I can ask as a parent, is that I can just, the good stuff that's been put into me by my parents, I can pass that on to my children, because, like, my kids are going to they've got the goodness that was put into me by my parents, and the goodness that I've learned and picked up for myself, and the life lessons that I've picked up for myself. So every generation, really, that bundle of love and understanding and opportunity can get bigger and bigger. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And that's why I think it's important to look at your own belief systems, because like I said at the beginning, a lot of this is subconscious.
Yeah.
People are not doing this deliberately. They're not passing on negative beliefs to their children deliberately.
They may not even know that they have them beliefs. Yeah.
But, you know, it's ingrained, isn't it? You know, if you listen, like I said, the Bruce Lipton thing, you know, one of the examples he gave is like, and I know people break this mould, but most people from a poor background will stay poor. And most people from a rich background will get rich, you know. And you think, like, if you look at Donald Trump, you know, that's the example he gave, which I thought was brilliant, because a lot of people think Donald Trump's an idiot, you know, which he can't be really, but everything he does, you think, what? what's this guy doing? But he just seems to keep making money. He loses billions, makes billions, because he's got that belief system that he's always going to make money.
Yeah.
And I've got no doubt whatsoever, as long as that guy's alive, he will always make money.
Yeah.
And people from that background they'll just keep making money because their belief system is that's what they're worth, that's what they do. They just make, apart they do other things as well, but they make money. Whereas if you're from a working class background, quite often, like me, money was scarce, money was hard. My parents are Catholic, so money's a bad thing. If you get rid of it, quit.
Yeah.
Because what's that saying in the Bible? It's easier for a camel to enter the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. Now, I've heard that told in different ways, that it's not meant to be like that. And a lot of the biblical stuff is metaphors, which is a one for another session, which I find really fascinating.
Yeah.
They're not meant to be taken literally. But again, it just shows you how powerful that belief system is. And again, it's an unconscious thing. Your whole life, if you've been brought up from early ages to think that money's a bad thing and you're not meant to have it and it's a struggle and there's not much money in the world, there's massive amounts of money in the world.
Yeah.
There's just only a certain few people tend to have most of it because they believe they should have most of it.
Because it's theirs.
It's theirs.
In their eyes, it's theirs,
Yeah, and why have you got it?
And I think the interesting thing is, I've got, I would say, working class background. But one thing that I'm aware of, and I've seen certainly in my own life, and with a lot of my friends and people I've grown up with, is that coming from a working class background is that many of us learn the ability to make good amounts of money, to earn more than what you might call a salary, but we're really not educated in what to do with it once we've got it. And that's why I think often we go through that poverty cycle. It's funny because one of the things we were going to talk about today, but we never really got onto, we've got a bit of time, we were going to talk about finances. It was something we said we wanted to bring up, and the idea of living with this idea that there's not enough, that there's a scarcity. And really, again, that's like you say, it's a belief system.
Definitely.
It's a belief system, but you're right, we live in a multi-billion-pound economy. Whether you like it or not, or you can see it, we do. Every day around us now, there's transactions taking place, millions and millions and millions of pounds every day. So it is there. It's just maybe on what we were saying about our sensors, and our filters are not necessarily for all of us. Some of us that are listening to this, they will be, and they will understand that their filters are open to where the money is, how it moves, and how to access that flow of money, because that's really what you're doing when you're making money. You're just accessing the flow of money. And one of the best analogies I heard about money was like about the oak tree. You look at an oak tree and it's big and strong, it's not going anywhere, and it's got massive roots that take up massive amounts of nutrients and water from the ground. But what happens then, the roots take up the massive amounts of nutrient and water from the ground, but they go up through this really strong trunk, and the strong trunk is the bit that we see, but then it goes up to the leaves drop down, and they mulch the soil underneath, and it feeds itself again. The tree feeds itself again. And they were saying, the guy that was explaining it to me was saying, like, that's like how the money works. The tree, the trunk that you see, the part that you see, that's, if you think of that as money, the money flows through that part. And so you never really get to own the money, you never get to keep it. What you want is to let the money flow through you. It comes in from the left hand and it goes out of the right, but there's always that surplus that's there with you, because it's transient. Money is transient, it doesn't stay with you. Now, I've tried my best to apply that analogy in my own life, and it certainly is transient. However, it seems to be transient in the wrong direction most of the time. But I really got that analogy and thought, that is how it works. It will come and go. But it's about making your trunk, you are the trunk, and the money, the nutrients are going to come in from the left hand, they're going to go out from the right, and it's about you making your trunk as strong and stable as possible as the money flows through you. That's a good analogy for being financially stable. But by the same token, that makes me think about love and energy, or whatever you want to call it, that it's constantly flowing into us. Love and energy is constantly flowing into us. It comes into the left hand, and we should be giving it out with the right. And if we don't give our love or our positive energy away, it becomes like standing water. That love can sit inside you, and it's like a puddle of water that's not moving. If you think of a river or a stream, when it flows, it's fresh, it's flowing, the water's clear, there's no debris in it. And think about a puddle, it sits, it gets stagnant, all the dirt and gunk builds up in there, and you wouldn't want to drink it. No. And I see that's one of the things that I've learned. This loving power is coming into me all the time, and if I give it away, then I'm kind of just making myself a conduit for that love. Whereas if I'm not giving it away, it kind of gets inside me and gets toxic, and I start to go down that negative kind of hateful path. So these are all, they're just energies, they're just energies and things that, if I can learn to allow them to just flow through me, rather than trying to hold on to things, to give away, to give and pay forward, be generous, within reason, then I always find that that's a great way to get my life moving, to get fluidity in my life, to get action, to get forward progression in my life. The best way, one of the best ways, is to give to other people, to help other people, to reach out to other people. Especially if you're in a dilemma, the best way out of your dilemma is often to try and help someone else out of theirs. But yeah, so that with the money and this, the energy thing, that's what I'm trying to do. Just let it flow through me. Try not to hang on to it, not to have too much emotional attachment to it, because that, again, we know a lot of people we see people all the time that have vast amounts of money, and the act of trying to hold on to it, trying to hold on to that power, it can often look very ugly from the outside.
I think that's
the things that people will do, to the lengths they'll go to.
I agree with you on the energy. I think life's about energy, isn't it? I think we're balls of energy. Everything in the planet, everything living's as some type of energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it is about keeping the energy flowing. You're right, and you can look at finances, money as an energy, and keeping it flowing. I still think it's, I agree with that 100%. I still think it's belief systems though, isn't it? If you can change your belief system around money. Because if money's an energy, isn't it, and your belief system is that it's a negative energy, you're going to try and avoid it, aren't you?
Yeah,
because it's a negative energy, and you're not going to attract it to you. So that's why, this law of attraction stuff, I think there's definitely something in it. I think they maybe made it to be bigger than it is, but I think there's definitely something in that. The attraction bit is your belief system, isn't it? If you believe you're worth money, and it's not a fact that just because I believe I'm worth, that somebody's gonna come and go, oh Tony, the universe is gonna go, your worth is £1 million.
Yeah.
I've still got to go out and I've got to work towards that, haven't I?
It's like you said, it's the middle part, it's the action, belief, action, change. And but I agree with you. You need the belief there in the first place. That for me is about what I'll often term as positioning yourself in front of the door. There's doorways all around us that we may not even know. In fact, I can guarantee you that there are doors that will open for you that you don't even know exist. And my opinion is that it's not our job to open the door, but it's our job to position ourselves in front of the door. And that is the belief. The belief is that there is opportunity, there is a chance. And then you get up and you position yourself metaphorically in front of the doors, and then if the doors are meant to open, they'll open. And that action then is the time for action. The door opens, here's an opportunity for you, now is the time for action, and then it's up to you. Then do you walk through the door and pursue that path, or are you going to shy away from it and let your belief systems tell you that I better not go through that door because there's risk in there, there's danger, there's fear.
I think we're lucky, aren't we? The world we live in, we have got lots of choices, and quite often it is just our belief system that holds us back. I was thinking then about some of these people in sort of third world countries and stuff, and they haven't got as many choices, have they? But I guess they can still work on perception. I've been to Africa and stuff, and a lot of those people are just so happy, it's incredible. And they've got hardly anything. I remember someone telling me a story about a woman who had I'll come and look at my new house, and it was just a couple of pieces of tin, but she was over the moon about it and so proud of it. And again, it just made me think perception, and belief system. To her, this new house was amazing, whereas to us, we would look, well, that's just a few pieces of tin. So I think we're really lucky that we live in a society where we have got lots of choices, but it's realising that we've got lots of choices. Some other places in the world haven't got so many choices, have they? But then all they can work on, which is powerful, is their belief system and their perception.
Yeah.
You change the way you see the world, and the world changes, doesn't it? I mean, that's been said thousands of times,
Yeah. Well, that, like, the idea of stoicism and being stoic is like a lot of the time to take what you've got, the luxuries that you've got, and withdraw yourself from them is one of the stoic practices.
Yeah.
And in order that instead of continually searching for more, you can come back and appreciate what you've got. You can come back to whatever, maybe it's your relationship, maybe it's your house or whatever. You take a little break, and we all do. Even when we go to a nice luxury holiday, a nice hotel for a couple of weeks, you come back and you miss your own house, you miss your own bed, you realise how much you appreciate it. And being. It's beliefs and perception. If you're seeing the same four walls every day, you're going to start to not like them four walls very much over time. But then, take a little break from it, and when you go back there, you'll see a new glint in the room.
Appreciate it,
yeah, you'll appreciate it.
I think,
more.
like, if we go, for me, I was just thinking then, Dan, as well. For me, around money, one of my biggest beliefs around money is that I'll always be all right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When I look at my life, there's been times where I've been absolutely skint and I've been on my knees, but that belief that I'll always be all right, and I always have been, at some point something turns and something comes in, whether that's me going out and getting it, in the past working 2 or 3 jobs to survive, doing jobs that I've hated, just because I've at the time I've needed to do it to survive, but I've always been all right.
Yeah.
And that's a massive belief for me. That's one of my strongest beliefs, that I'll always be all right.
Yeah.
And then you could argue what all right is, but to me, I'm surviving, I'm paying my bills, I'm doing okay.
Well, I know I'll be all right because I believe that you'll be all right and you'll look after me, so we'll both be all right.
Beliefs,
yeah.
And I guess, it's hard to do, but looking at your belief system, what is your belief system? Look at what your... look at how you're living now, because that'll give you a massive insight into what your belief systems are. How you're living now will give you a massive insight into what your belief systems are and how you were brought up.
Oh, I felt that when you said that.
It's hard, but it is, because quite often people will say, well, I can't remember. But actually, how are you living? Because that'll tell you what your belief systems were, what you were taught from an early age about money, about relationships, about everything else.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fascinating stuff.
Mm-hmm. And all changeable with enough willingness and enough kind of hard work. Definitely. To be able to, it's all changeable. And the great thing about your belief systems, I've changed a lot of my beliefs over yourself over the probably 10 years we've known each other now. Lots of things have changed, but there are certain beliefs that I've kind of gone back to and picked up again. And it's not always about just tearing everything down and kind of, I've got to get rid of all these beliefs. It's like, no, let's pick and choose through. Well, actually, that one's okay. That's a good, healthy belief system that fits with me and works for me. And like I say, I think the key to all this stuff is just having the willingness to open your eyes, go inside, have a little look, have a little nose around, see if you can make some improvements.
Definitely, and I think you got this far, haven't you? So your beliefs have worked for you so far. I guess it's just looking at your life, and if you're not happy, what belief systems can you change? What's got you here?
Yeah.
And go back to your past. It's really hard. When I'm working with people, one of the first things I work on is what's their story. Yeah. What's your story, and by that I mean, what were you brought up like, what were your earliest memories, what was going on for you, what is your belief system?
Yeah.
And then the second bit is, okay, let's start challenging that now. Let's challenge the beliefs that are not working for you, and let's stick with the beliefs that are working for you. Mm-hmm. That's what part of therapy is, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Right, I'm just looking at the time, and we better pack up because we've got stuff going on in the room pretty soon. Yeah. So thanks for coming along again and listening to us. Hope you got some out of it. I think the finances is something we're going to probably have to do a full episode on, but really all this stuff again, it does just come back to beliefs. Everything we talk about comes back to beliefs and perception. So many recurring themes in the things that we go through. So I hope you've been enjoying it so far, and like I said, thanks for coming along. Yeah, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week. Yeah, have fun, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.